Okay. Hi, everybody. Noel Coca here from Recruiting Daily, and joining me today is Aaron. Daniel's joining me to do a Recruiting Live in place of Jackie Clayton. Jackie had a late flight, actually an early morning flight this morning, coming back from HRTX New York, which was a great event yesterday. But she's just not getting back in time, so I'm subbing in. And Aaron, thank you for dealing with me being a bit of a rookie getting this thing going.
No biggie, no biggie. I love doing these things. It's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Keep it real, right?
Yeah, absolutely, all day long.
So first off, I want to say congratulations to the Houston Astros.
Yeah, absolutely. We needed it.
I'm a big-time Yankee fan. I have to say that I liked Altuve before I hated Altuve. It was a powerhouse team, and congratulations again. That was really awesome season.
Oh yeah, thanks a lot. I mean, we need one of the franchises here to knock something out of the park, right? So, pun intended.
You built a powerhouse, and actually, you have a player that was Springer, I believe, grew up in Connecticut, where I am right now. So it's exciting
Nice.
to watch a guy, grow up from the local area.
Oh, right on. Yeah, it was definitely a game to watch, or a series of games to watch. It was a good one, but yeah, people went nuts around here, but as they should, right? Earn history. Thanks for that.
Yeah. All right. So kind of getting into this, it's a casual feel. That's what we're trying to do with Recruiting Live, get to know recruiters and people and sourcers. So I'll just ask you some questions, answer them however you like. And
Sure.
My first one, I thought I'd just say, why don't you tell me a little about, just tell the audience, what do you do, who do you work for, why are you in this space right now? What are you doing in this space right now?
Yeah. So, Aaron Daniels, I'm a recruiting sourcer. I've been in talent acquisition for 11 years now, and I've been sourcing for the majority of my time in the space. But I've had some RPO / agency time. I started recruiting in the military. Those of you who've seen these before kind of know my background there. But those of you who haven't, I like most of the people in the profession, I kind of just fell backwards into recruiting and ended up really liking it. I started recruiting in the military, and when I got out of active duty, I joined my first, I guess, civilian recruiting firm, agency, RPO, Insperity out here in Houston. It's an HR company. Then I got into sourcing really heavy, and I just kind of stayed in the sourcing realm, and that's really where I think where I like to stay. Along the way, we just kept learning, kept growing, and that's kind of it. That's kind of me in a nutshell. I'm also the founder of something called Source Houston. It's essentially a Houston gathering of folks. We do 2 conferences a year, like evening type conferences where we'll bring in local speakers and just kind of advance the recruiting conversation in my own local city. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
7 days ago you had one, right? Was that November 10th?
Yeah. November 9th. It was another great one. I really don't like sitting in hotels, and granted, some conferences that are in the space, they're just so big that it just makes sense, right? But I like sitting somewhere that's not hotel-ish. I don't know. There's something about sitting in a conference at a hotel that just kind of makes me a little bleed from the eyeballsy a little. But yeah, so we like to hold them at like breweries, but the majority of them have been at breweries. That have everything you need: food, adult beverages, and then we just put together the speakers and just kind of have holistic or organic conversations, whichever buzzword you'd like to use, and just take it from there. So yeah, it was a good event.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, that's what we're trying to do with our HRTXs. We're just trying to break down that model. When you walk into a hotel, you kind of get on guard right away and start to feel those robotic feelings, and you want everyone to be relaxed and talk and communicate, and get right to the meat of everything. So we're doing the same thing with our events. It's great. It looked like it was well attended, so congratulations on that.
Oh, thanks. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's I have a day job, right? And so these things, it's their passion projects. They don't make us any money. We just put it on for the community. When the community stops showing up, we'll stop doing them. But until then, we're just going to keep rolling. So
I
uh,
did. I did some work with veterans in my when I was a recruiter full time. I worked for Comp Health Group, and we were physician recruiting. I primarily worked with physicians and executives. I did a lot of work with veterans in active duty, coming off active duty, and I actually really made it a niche of mine because I found the doctors that were coming out from overseas or from wherever they just were very well rounded. I mean, they had
yeah,
a lot more experience. Um, they really fit into systems. Occasionally, maybe someone who was, was more like accustomed to giving orders, was getting into an employee situation where we'd have some difficulties. But for the most part, really excellent experience with them as candidates and also helping clients hire them. I wanted to ask you, I know that's a part of your background and what you'd like to talk about. Just what can recruiters do? I mean, this has been said quite a bit, but it can never be said enough. What can recruiters do to make sure they're servicing veterans the best way possible?
I would just say educate themselves and then educate the veterans that you're working with, and to kind of set the question a little bit in a more granular sense is the last source Houston that we just did on November 9th, we had being very close to Veterans Day, we had a veteran recruiting panel to answer the same questions that like you said very, very well, is they have been asked and they need to continue to be asked. But to answer the question is just educate yourselves and educate each other. Don't keep your knowledge in a silo, share it, and then know what you're looking for. Just like any other recruiting requisition that hits your desk, make sure that you're going to research where you're finding these folks, kind of the persona, if you will. That's another buzzword that's been used a lot lately, but envision the right person for the role, envision what your client is looking for, and make sure that you know what you're looking for as well. Because a lot of times, to your point, veterans who come out in specific roles like doctors, pharmacists, things like that, same education, they still have to take boards, all that, but sometimes they get overlooked. So just educating yourselves and educating your employers, your hiring managers, and just knowing that it's not a check the box. It's never really done. Just like diversity and inclusion, those things they're constant. There's never going to be an end game, right? Obviously, it ebbs and flows with leadership within organizations, how heavily they focus on diversity, inclusion, and veteran hiring, all that. But it ebbs and flows, and it never stops. So, yeah, I just got a text message. Somebody said it looks like I'm drinking a beer. It's not. It's sparkling water.
All right.
With my company. Little shameless plug, HEB. So, if you're not from Texas, HEB is it's a household name. That's who I work for.
Why don't you just tell us what HEB does, so everyone can.
Yeah, sure. As I choke on the sparkling water, HEB is a grocery retail store. It's the largest private company in the state of Texas, and anywhere between the 20 and 25 largest private employers in the United States. It's a grocery store, but we're a household name here in Texas, and believe it or not, grocery stores, just like any other company, they're diving into the digital space, they're diving into the mobile space, and they're looking for some of the same folks out there that you would find other companies like data scientists, developers, things like that. So yeah, I think I've been working with HEB for almost 2 years now, and boy, it's always busy. So that's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Yeah, Alan Fleur is on the line, and he wanted to.
Hey,
say,
Alan.
He said, first off, he's not on the line, and then second off, he wanted to say, what are a few of the biggest challenges veterans face when looking for a job once they transition? What items might they need to prepare for that that's unique to them?
Yeah, great question, Alan. So I think some of the biggest issues that come around for veterans is they start looking far too late and start networking far too late, because there's always some sort of there's always that learning curve, whether it's plug and play from your job in the military to a civilian job, and a lot of times it's not, right? So think about our combat arms folks or fighter pilots. What are you going to do with those folks? They can be highly educated, They can do more with less, which is what a lot of companies do nowadays. But making sure that the transition is to something they either have a passion for or they have some sort of experience for. So a lot of the veterans start looking way too late. Matter of fact, I just spoke with, I'm on the network Veterati, if you guys don't know about it. Katrina Kibben, an alumni of your organization there, she hit me with something called Veterati. It's where you can mentor veterans as they come out of service, and you can help them learn how to transition, or you can give them pointers on who to connect with. And so I try to take at least one call every 2 weeks with veterans like that. So I think just the education on the big part. If you're working with veterans or you want to work with veterans, make sure that they can start networking and that they know that they should start networking well before they transition, because it's not as easy as you would think, that transition. Just being able to speak in normal English, like civilian English instead of military English, that's a piece. And then also knowing how to sell themselves, right? So most veterans are pretty humble, they don't brag, and they're silent professionals, right? Which is how military folks are trained. So I think pointing them in the right direction on when they can transition and how, and start early, start networking, find other people of their same branch and their same job in other companies that they admire. That's a great way. But then we always get the folks who they go through the transition process from the military, and it's okay. It could be a lot better, and it depends on where they're coming from. And just helping those individuals network when you make the time, because you have to make the time. And also, I think on the employer side is if your employers have some sort of veteran recruiting initiative, it's not plug and play. Just like the veterans aren't plug and play, there's an extra layer, right? There's an extra layer of work that has to be done, and that's selling the candidate to the appropriate person. And then also having the candidate make sure that they can translate their own skills and experience well, and interview well, and know how to take that military business acumen and spin it to a more civilian side, so that they don't scare people away when they say they were an infantry officer deployed 6 times in the past 10 years or something like that. Because that just, those of you who may not have had experience talking about that, it just sounds like that person just shoots people all day long. That's really not the case. So anyway, I hope I answered your question, Alan. I felt like I was a little circular there in my answer, but we talk anyway.
What do you think is the length of time they should have? When you say that transition time, if I'm a recruiter, I want to be thinking about, okay, here's the time when they're going to exit. What's the length of time do you think? Is there an average, or is it just individual?
When I was talking about length of time, I should have been more clear there. Length of time is for the veterans themselves, at least 6 months before they leave. When you hit the 1-year mark and it's clear that you're not going to stay in and you're going to go ahead and exit service, they start putting you through the transition process on their side, clearing supply, making sure all your paperwork's done, yada, yada, yada. And they're already starting that process, but they're so very laser focused on the military side of the house, they don't think about the civilian side of the house until it's either too late. But when it comes to a time frame for recruiters, if you have the opportunity to start networking with folks, going to like VSOs, like Veteran Service Organizations, like the USO Pathfinder Program or Rally Point is a really great, those are 2 of my top favorites, Rally Point and USO Pathfinder Program. If you have the opportunity to start networking with those folks, as a recruiter, I'd probably start hitting them maybe 3 months out. And if they're really sharp, they already kind of have a list of companies like they want to go to, or kind of a job that they want to do. And they're already starting to line it up and trying to envision themselves in the civilian side of the house.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now, another thing I gathered from your profile and just knowing you and watching you online is that you're a big fan of gadgets and tech. And I think it's something that's what we're always talking about. We spent a big part of our day yesterday at HRTX talking about just what's everybody using, what's the latest gadgets, what works. Big conversation point was integrations. Is that what integrates with what that I can make my job easier? And it was interesting. It was from big companies like IBM. They had the same problems that the smaller companies had. So you give us some, just, I mean, you've probably talked about this a bit, but for people who might not have heard it before, what are some of your favorite tech tools to use in the recruiting process? And maybe you could tell us about some of your fun ones you like to use that aren't anything to do with recruiting at all.
Yeah. So let's start with the recruiting ones first. So I've been tinkering around with a couple of tools to help me leverage Facebook a little better. So Shane McCusker's tool, Facebook Search or Intelligent Search, that one's pretty sweet, and it helps you identify folks in Facebook who you might want to reach out to. And then really a lot of the tools kind of stuttered and stalled right there, right? Then you'd have to go into their profiles and then, cross-check their name somewhere or reach out to them on Facebook, which still people don't like to do, and that's like a last-ditch effort for me personally. But Brian Fink, he likes to hit him on Messenger, which I think is just brilliant, which I will try, Brian, if you're listening. Gotcha, and thank you. But I like to take Shane's tool and pair that with something called Snovio that my buddy Megan Columbus pointed out to me from Todd up in Seattle. So essentially it's you use Shane's tool to pull the profiles that you want to see on this side and on this side. Oh, my camera's reversed. And on this side, you'll use Snovio, and it basically will pull all your profiles from Facebook, push it into another list, and it will pull email. It'll do an API lookup and pull emails, work and or personal. And then that's actionable data that we're typically used to seeing. So I'm playing around with that because obviously searching through Facebook is a little different than searching through anywhere else, just because of the way they do it. The set 3 that Balish Parker-Shea had written a blog a few years back about how to leverage it and use URL manipulation and all that jazz. But beside the point, it's just different to search from. So if you can get something like Shane's tool to get a pretty poignant search here, and you can just push all that information to another tool that'll pull email addresses and all that, I think that's where we're going to start really honing in on Facebook, is when they can start pulling that information, very much like a Lead IQ or a Hire tool or something like that. So that's a couple things that I'm doing for recruiting. And I'm not an IT recruiter, but I've always had IT or technical positions hit my desk, and you kind of have a big learn-up, or a big learn-up. Good Lord, it's Friday, filter-free Friday. You have a big upswing and a big knowledge gap if you don't do a specific set of IT. So I love using Glossary Tech. They just rolled out their Chrome extension, I think a month and a half ago, something like that. They have a resume uploader, so if your hiring manager gives you, hey, this is the guy I want to hire, but they don't, they're not available, you can drop their resume in there, and it highlights all the technical jargon that's in there, and it explains it to you and gives you other things that are like it. So if you're looking for a specific library, it'll give you other libraries that are transferable, or frameworks, or coding languages. It's really cool. So I always tell people to check it out, because if you stay in recruiting long enough, you're going to have some IT stuff hit your bench. So I think those 2/3 are what I'm using on the recruiting side. Go ahead.
Okay, but Shannon actually shot us a message saying, can you spell out the name of those first 2 tools?
Shannon Pritchett?
Nope, Shannon Renault.
Oh, well, hello, Shannon. I was going to say Shannon Pritchett. I thought you were busy. So the first tool is Facebook Search. If you just go into the Chrome store, put in Facebook Search, it is that's what it's called. It's by Shane McCusker. It's an orange logo. And then the other one is called Snovio, and then Snovio, and it's a purple tool. That is a freemium tool. You have some free credits to use, and then you have to pay for more if you end up really diving into the tool. But it's still worth it, even if it gives you, I think anywhere between 5 and 10 free credits a month. It's worth it, right? So those are the first 2, and then Glossary Tech is just Glossary Tech. So yeah, sorry.
Alan's saying
double S.
Alan is saying, please stop giving away our best secrets.
Come on, Alan. A very smart person told me one time that you should. It was Jenny Devon, actually. She said, share your best stuff. Share your best stuff often, because only 1 to 2% of the people are sharp enough to actually use it and implement it on the daily. So I'm always a sharer. But yeah, I guess Alan, sorry. I don't know, man.
So yeah, he said he's joking and he agrees. Getting a couple.
Yeah, I know. I just trying to joke. I'm not going to humor Alan. I'm sorry, man.
So what do you think's coming up next? I mean, it's at the end of the year. You've been to
Yeah.
events. You do a lot of coverage. You see a lot of things. What do you think is next? What do you think of some of the hot talk that's out there right now? Do you think it has any play? And what do you think's coming up that's going to be cool for you to see? And what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I'll answer that question, then we're going to circle back to the last question because I just realized I didn't tell you the non-recruiting tools that I use.
Oh yeah,
Um,
definitely want to hear
you want to do that now, and then we'll circle back and just
that.
reset it? Okay, cool, cool. So the non-recruiting stuff that I'm using, so when it comes to recruiting, a lot of it's marketing is diving into, it's even becoming more entrenched in the recruiting space because, candidates aren't always looking at your job site or not always looking at your LinkedIn profile. So there's a couple of tools that I use for marketing, and when you always have to find the right image depending on the platform, whether it's Quora, Pinterest, Facebook, Twitter, there's always different images that image pixel sizes. So there's some cool rulers out there that'll actually measure the pixel size on your screen, so you don't have to do the guesswork. Excuse me. And then I use that, and then eyedropper. So when you have to make colors itself, right? So if you have if you had an odd company logo color, you can use something called eyedropper. These are both Chrome extensions that will it'll pick the color and it'll give you the RGB code or whatever code that you want to use, so you can match the color and it doesn't look off per se. So I use those when I do my own grassroots marketing. And so resetting your question for what's next, kind of what's out there, what I want to see. You know, I tell tech vendors all the time, listen, if you can incorporate more Facebook, more Indeed, and you can everybody's playing in LinkedIn right now, right? All the extensions, LinkedIn this, LinkedIn that, it sits on LinkedIn. Yeah, that's fine, but the monthly average user for LinkedIn is far lower than the monthly average user for Facebook or most anything else. So if you could figure out how to run API calls off of Indeed or run an API call or a contact lookup from Facebook or both, kind of like Snovio, I'll tell you to shut up and take my money, right? Because that's where people are. That's where people are actively looking, or that's where people are actively on. So I think that. And then I think digital marketing is kind of interesting because there, maybe 3-4 years ago, and even some companies now, when they do digital marketing, they kind of do a shotgun blast. But I guess the best example is when you look at something on Amazon, right, and you're and you don't buy it, or even if you do buy it, you click over and you read a blog. Well, all of a sudden, that item you're looking for on Amazon is right there on the side page, right? If we can incorporate that into recruiting somehow, that would be fantastic. So that one-to-one marketing where it feels very personalized, I'd love to see more of that. And then I think as machine learning continues to grow in the space, I think we're hopefully going to be able to do some really cool things with that in the future. Because right now, I mean, most people can't tell you the difference between artificial intelligence and machine learning anyway, let alone tell you what they do, right? And I think last time I was speaking with Jackie, when you have machine learning and you have someone who doesn't quite know exactly what it's feeding the machine to learn, if it's wrong, you have a dumb machine. So I think moving forward when it comes to technology, that one-to-one marketing, I think leveraging other places where people are to pull contact information, I think that's cool. And then I think as recruiters and sourcers, we need to demo more products. All the sales guys are like, yes, do that, demo more products. Demo more products just so you can see what's out on the market. I try to demo at least one tool a month. A lot of times I do more just because I want to see what's out there, right? And typically it's the people who have no recruiting background, and they say we're going to solve all your problems, and that's never the case. But do more demos, check out more tech, because this stuff changes so fast. It's really hard to keep up. So that's kind of what I want to see. I want to see us being more engaged, taking demos, and then I want to see more. I want to see how machine learning and artificial intelligence really plays into recruiting, and how to keep that at a price point that's across the board, right? Because a lot of these tools, they can do a lot of cool stuff, but it's going to cost a lot of money. Yeah, but it's interesting. I do want to see more of that marketing and more of that ML and AI stuff as it, I guess, entrenches more heavily into recruiting.
I like that. That's interesting. A good point. I agree with it. There's a lot of recruit. I mean, I would say the vast majority of people that actually recruit out there don't try new technologies, don't really get involved in it. I mean, I know from the circles you're in, the circles I'm in, there's quite a lot of us that are very interested in all the new tech, and we're actually out there. We want to see everything, but I would probably put that number at like 60, 70% of all the recruiters out there just go in, do their job, and leave, or work with whatever tech is put in front of them, and they don't realize they can actually probably improve their own performance internally by getting the Chrome extensions alone. They can do a lot. And every time I'm talking to recruiters, especially because I came from healthcare and that background, that area is so archaic and everything that they use.
Yeah.
You got to get out there. You got to try the latest things, and that was kind of the foundation of this whole company. Was we wanted to try to get as much information out as we could to the recruiters who needed it, and still trying to do it.
Well, that's fair. I mean, because if you think about your typical recruiter's desk, right, they have anywhere from, on average, about 30 to 40 requisitions, right? They have their ant trails. They have what works for them now. Even if there's another tool out there that is infinitely better, what's working for them right now is working. Right, but I still think we need to get out there and check some other things out, because it takes 2 weeks or more to integrate something new into your battle rhythm, to your everyday plan, to your ant trails, if you will. So, I mean, just the user interfaces alone are wildly different. What they do is wildly different, whether it's a Chrome extension or a CRM or what have you. So I think just implementing something new when you have, I've seen recruiters with 90-something recs on their bench. They're all like burning down to the ground. It's like, well, when do I find the time? And it's never really good. Like getting time to go and learn at conferences, getting time to step away from your desk to train, and getting time to step away from your desk to do demos, let alone meetings and all that stuff. It sucks, but we got to do it.
Yeah.
So otherwise, we'll stay in our own little silos and be drinking our own bathwater. Then you just grow. So.
True. And that's why, I'll give a shout out again to your Houston sourcing crew. It's those localized little that when you can draw those people away from their desks, it's local, it's easy, I can get out there. I think that's a high value, and then people get a lot of return. And I saw people it's New York. You figure, a lot of people there, but we were turning heads just with some of the stuff that was going on. So it was exciting.
Yeah. I mean, I think if anybody's going to try and do these, like props to Recruit DC, Sourcing 7, Tag in Atlanta, if you ever want to do your own, I mean, food and adult beverages,
bang.
It's not cheap either. So, but if you're going to get me out of my house after when I could go and like hang with my kiddo or something,
right?
Food and adult beverages, that's a start.
Well, we're at our end here. That was a quick half hour. It flew by.
They always do.
Any parting words? Anything you want to say at the end here?
Yeah. So first and foremost, happy Red Friday. It's not a red shirt, but it is a veteran shirt. For those of you who don't know, that's Red Fridays. Remember, everyone deployed. Holler, and then go out, share what you know, and learn new stuff, and just keep growing and share it back with your community, even if it's somebody that's not a true company. And do more demos, and be clear. I tell them, hey, listen, I'm going to demo your product. I have no intention of buying it, but I at least want to see it, and a good salesperson will at least give you a demo. So
I agree with that. I know Jackie was planning to be here. I hope I did an okay substitute for her. Thank you.
You did great.
Thank you.
Like Jackie, next time, we can keep it this. You take a break, Jackie. I'm just kidding. Love you.
I'm talking recruiting. I don't get to do it enough. My head's in the books too much. But thank you so much for joining. Hope to see you again soon. If we can do anything for you, just let us know. And for everybody who joined, thank you so much. Recruiting Live will be here again. Not next Friday. We're actually taking off next Friday because the day after the holiday, but we'll be returned right after that. So look for the email, sign up, and we'll send you the links. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, you too. Take care.
Have a good day. See you.